About by him, it won't be by the player. Look, there's two aspects to this. First one is what did he do on the pitch? He made a difference to them, especially going forward. They changed the system at half time, and he was a big reason why they got back in the game. He ran in behind. He played a part in getting the penalty. He was a threat.
So why did he take him off?
I don't know, but well, I do know because he said it off the ball, the pressing. Now, I mean, I might have been watching something different. The thing that he's got that I haven't is inside knowledge of how he's trained the last few days, how he responded to not playing when he picked the lineup for the game, how his body language and attitude was in the dressing room around that game. I can't talk about those things.
But there's nothing really wrong in Tuchel doing what he did, is there?
It depends which way you look at it. From a player's perspective, you might have set him back weeks or months. Now, you could argue, well, he's not strong enough then. Fair enough. Sometimes you get a good response out of kicking someone up the backside. But what he did by bringing him off is shame enough. And furthermore, then you publicly have, you verbally have a go at him as well, and he's going to feel down about it. The bigger problem is, and the risk he's taking as a new manager, is he's trying to be a bit too much of a tyrant. He's trying to stamp his authority too much. And what tends to happen is a group of senior players who've got a bit about them turn around in their little corners and quietly and say, hold on. Who have we got here? What have we got here? He thinks he's the dogs, He thinks he's the top boy. And all of a sudden, rightly or wrongly, I'm not saying that's right, but that's what happens. And players start going, he thinks he's God's gift, this fella. Thinks he can do what he wants. He's a tyrant.
Yeah, but he is in charge, Danny.
I know. And I'm not saying that it's going to have an adverse effect. It might have a good one. But I'm saying this is what happens at football clubs when managers try and implement discipline and try and show that they are the main man too quickly in the wrong way. Hudson-Odoi's a young lad. He's been one of his best players since he's come in. He's gone and brought him off after what? What was it? 25 minutes, half an hour?
But surely the players would respect that and think, God, this guy means business.
One or two might, yeah. The majority go, that was out of order, Gaffer. One or two might not have the kahunas to say it to his face. I would be saying to him, Gaffer,
But don't you as a player, don't you want definite leadership? It's not really the player's job to determine what definite leadership looks like, is it? It's a player's job to respect it. And when you talk about Callum Hudson-Odoi, if his body language was wrong in the dressing room or anything behind that, then he wouldn't have put him on in the first place. So obviously everything was right in the camp. Which part of what the manager imparted to Callum Hudson-Odoi did he not understand? Because clearly the manager didn't think he understood enough. This notion that we live in a world where modern footballers, because you'll use it and everyone will use the expression, modern footballers have a different set of parameters. Modern footballers must be handled differently. Modern footballers have this and modern footballers have that, from an opinion to an opportunity to the way they should be handled. So what's the difference with a modern manager that thinks it's appropriate to take a player, put him on and take him off? Why is the modern player that has to have all these dispensations and all these concessions, because modern players can't have this and modern players can't have that? You're referencing back to what happens to players in the past when they don't like being subbed, put on, light bulbed, or whatever the terminology is. But you'll accept on one hand that the game must change to embrace the modern player's thinking. But you'll take an age-old ideal, which is players don't want to be put on and taken off, and superimpose it over the modern player, irrespective of everyone has to adapt to the modern player.
He's coming for you, Danny.
You're talking about a mindset of the other players around the individual who's been taken off as well. You're not just talking about the repercussions or the way a guy should deal with it.
But don't you think the players have got a little bit too much of it, Dan? Don't you think that in real dressing rooms where real leaders define, fairness and equitability are what defines what makes a good manager?
The perfect environment is when so for example, when Joe Dule was at Liverpool and we were doing well and things were going really well, there was a harmony and there was a togetherness. And it didn't matter at half-time against Leeds when he went to me and Patrick Berger, you've had enough, off. It didn't matter, and then he dropped us for the next game. Everyone accepted it. No one thought, what's the gaffer doing? That's out of order, because things were going really well and we had a good group and he treated people fairly. So you build that respect and rapport as a manager, and you build that reputation where you can do things and the players respect it. My point is, in his infancy in a new job with high-profile players in an era where egos are bigger than ever, and actually players more than ever don't like being criticised, I think that's fair to say. I was actually talking to Declan Rice about this on Thursday when I interviewed him.
But don't you think that's crap in itself, Dan?
I do, yeah.
If you can praise me, but don't you dare criticise me.
I agree with that. I'm saying what I'm talking about is not what I feel. It's actually what I think is going to happen. So I would get on with it. I'd be saying, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to train hard. I'm going to get back in the team.
But if he's strong enough. If he's strong enough,
anyway.
Tuchel was the reasons why previous managers haven't been able to do what Chelsea needed to have been done at times. AVB went in there. Abramovich said, break up that dressing room. And then he sold him down the river when he realised that the dressing room was stronger than the manager. In this instance, you've got a manager that is A, able to carry a tune, B, has a resume, and C, has the courage of his convictions, and D, knows he's got 18 months and no time to muck about, and has already pinned his flag to the flag pass saying, I've got 18 months and I've got to build this team into winning the Premier League or winning the Champions League the next 18 months. I haven't got time to carry along people that I've given you a message, son. Which part of that message do you not understand? Now you understand it, don't you? Now you've got the message, son, haven't you?
But
the memo's
risk,
dropped
Simon.
now, isn't it?
It's a risk, though. That's what I'm saying.
But and you're right. But if you want to build a culture where people respect what the manager wants you to do in all circumstances, not when it's going, everybody loves David Moyes right now because West Ham are winning. Watch that dressing room. If they start losing a few games, 5 or 6 games go past them, and all of a sudden this spirit will not be the same as it is now. You've got to have the same spirit, Dan, in adversity as you do in success.
You can't compare the two. Chelsea are a squad full of high-class internationals who've been there and done it. What I'm talking about is Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola got to the levels they have with the rapport they've got with their squad, the constant desire to keep going and going, 2-3 years of consistency and getting players to perform and keeping players on the bench happy by digging them out. No. By bringing them off after half an hour. No.
We've seen
Pep and Jurgen don't do that.
But there's not been, with due respect to Jurgen Klopp as an example, we haven't seen much adversity for Liverpool. We're now seeing it. We're now seeing adversity, and we'll see how it's handled by Jurgen Klopp. In this instance, I don't go down your route, Danny, that the players need to be handled with kid gloves. You want to build real characters, real leaders. They need to be handled properly and fairly.
You're misquoting me. I'm not saying that's exactly what should happen. That's not what I would want. It's not what I would respond to. But I'm saying that's where we're at.
How would a young Danny Murphy have responded to that, Danny? If Tuchel
I'd be
done that
devastated.
the weekend?
I wouldn't sleep for 2 or 3 nights. I'd feel low in confidence, and then I'd pick myself up. I'd train twice as hard, and I'd
prove
try
the
and get
manager
back
wrong.
Yes, but that's not the majority of footballers now. And the other thing is, of course, is that you're talking about somebody who's new in the job. You have to get the players on board.
But Simon says
you lose the players early.
Danny, so the old expression
you lose the players early, you're gone.
So the old expression is not relevant to football. New broom sweep clean. That's the only industry that it doesn't apply to. So when a guy goes in and says, right, this is how it is, this is how it's going to be. Whatever you had before, forget what you've done before. This is how we're going to roll. And tell you what, I'm going to carry you guys to levels you've never been before. But we're going my way, not your way. This is not a democracy. It's an autocracy. I'm the manager. I will be the one that carries the can. I'll be the one that loses my job when you guys don't feel like it. So we're going to go my way.
So
my way has to be our way.
Right, there's Jason, a Manchester United fan, saying, what if Tuchel had done nothing? Surely it's a risk if he does nothing. At least he did something. So what about Tuchel's 31-minute light bulb treatment of Hudson-Odoi? How do you view it this morning when you look back on it? Was it strong, ruthless management, which Simon's suggesting, or unfairly throwing a player under the bus that might have further ramifications for the player himself, in this instance, Callum Hudson-Odoi?